Welcome to inner city Britain 1995, where you can buy drugs on a police station doorstep.
You're in that police station.
The problem is that as soon as we put one dealer away, the rewards are so great that another person is happy to step into his shoes.
Where the most deadly crimes can go unpunished.
I think some dealers have got away with deliberate murder.
Where families feel abandoned.
I mean, a junkie to anybody else is just another junkie that's died, but if you've known him and loved him for most of his life, then he's a person.
This is Thelma Brown. Her son Stuart was found dead with a needle in his groin. That's all she knows about the day he died. Tonight we join Thelma as she investigates his death and the claim that some drug dealers are getting away with murder. After Stuart's death, Thelma was given a note from a witness who was with him just before he died. The note named the dealer who supplied the drugs that killed Stuart. She passed the note to the police, thinking they would follow up the lead. But the police still haven't contacted Thelma to find out more about the new witness. The witness has now disappeared.
My son actually was on the earth for 26 years. He dies. Well, I say he's murdered. And the next day he's not there. And nobody seems to be caring about him or about any of the other kids that have died with this problem.
Thelma has been trying to give the police the name of the informant so they can talk to him themselves. But for weeks they haven't returned her calls. She believes her only chance to see Stuart's dealer brought to justice is to find the informant and persuade him to speak to the police.
I just want somebody to take note that these kids have got families, and the families want to know what is happening, what is being done, what is the law doing for us.
Glasgow, the centre of a new epidemic of drug deaths. Last year in the Strathclyde region, 97 people died from drugs, 2 every week. Families now say that fatalities are so common, police fail to investigate them properly. Among the critics is a former Strathclyde detective.
Drug dealers felt that they could kill people with impunity, in so much that a number of these young people who I spoke to who were involved in drugs, they told me that they believed that a particular friend had been deliberately given pure deals of heroin because the addict had been possibly bragging about obtaining drugs and not paying for them.
Since Alistair Watson left the Strathclyde force, the annual death toll has rocketed. From his home, he's now campaigning for the police to conduct fuller investigations. He believes that won't happen until there's a change in attitude towards drug victims.
I told a number of senior officers about this information I had obtained from addicts. Their response was that they weren't interested because these people had killed themselves, they were criminals, and that their deaths meant less crime. And that was the attitude that prevailed in society also.
But as drug users die on the streets of Glasgow, there's a growing movement to change that attitude. Campaigners are determined that every death should be remembered. Leading that battle earned Maxie Richards the title Scotswoman of the Year.
In the early days, a death was a major event, a really major event. It shook the community. But now people will say, oh, there's another death. Today, there's another death. We've had 4 deaths this week, or we've had 2 deaths this week.
The young people come down here looking for drugs. They all know where they are going to get them. They come from all over the city. And then they know that the arcade is the place where they'll get their drugs. So it's open dealing. There's nothing secret about it. It's very, very obvious and very, very available.
Here?
Yes, right here. No problem at all. Everybody knows it.
The Gorbals, the hard centre of a tough city. The main focus of the community is the shopping arcade and its police station. But are dealers really able to openly sell drugs here? At the top end of the shopping centre, we were immediately directed to a dealer.
Down in the middle of the road down there, see the guy on the phone, that? Feet up there. Right.
The dealers had moved a short way from their usual spot next to the police station, but our man was still able to buy drugs nearby.
Are you dealing a wee bit?
Oh, everybody else is buying antidepressant.
Right, here, cheers.
I just break that one, yeah.
Right, see you later.
Just 200 yards away from the police station, we had enough heroin to kill a first-time user. It was a fatal dose of heroin that killed Thelma's son Stuart. He was sucked into the drugs world at school, from solvents to cannabis onto hard drugs in less than 4 years.
The day my daughter and I went and emptied his flat, that was quite a horrific experience because I saw his drug problem, which I never knew was as bad as it was.
Just before Stuart's funeral, a police officer had suggested Stuart's death might be linked to other cases. She's on her way to see Tom and Margot McKee, whose son died through drugs on the same day as Stuart.
It's another drug-related death of no interest. That's the way we look at it.
Swept under the carpet, more or less.
But you're not drug-related. This is what I feel.
Yeah.
You didn't have a son that was an addict.
Well, as far as we knew, he wasn't.
As far as we knew, no.
But Tom McKee's death certificate says he died through drugs. Thelma wants to know if his parents have heard about any link.
When I actually went up to collect Stuart's belongings, the police actually had said to me, you know, that because there had been 3 deaths in this area, they didn't know whether they were related, and they were actually going to looking into it. I thought they were all heroin deaths, and they could tell from the batch if it was from the same dealer.
Yes.
And what kind of feedback have you got from the police? Have they?
Absolutely nothing at all.
Absolutely nothing.
And what about the post-mortem report?
We're still
We have nothing
heard
about
nothing
it.
about that either.
You must be breaking up inside, because I am, you know. And
Oh, we are, but we've really just been trying to cope with each day as it comes, rather than, you know, think ahead.
That's it.
Thelma has not learned anything more about her own son's death from the McKees, but at least she now knows she's not the only parent left searching for the truth.
they were just a normal family, and they had had no more dealings with the police. They were up on the day of the son's death, and they haven't heard from them since, and I think that's really sad. They're lost, and there's nobody going to their help.
I don't know how the Glasgow parents have survived. They've had to cope with their addicted children, and then they've had to cope with the attitudes of the authorities, and then they've had to cope with the stigma, and then they've had to cope with the fact that nothing is really done about it. It's your son was an addict, and it is almost as though they're classed then as an addict as well.
I'm surprised if the families feel they've not had enough communication with the police, and they can approach us any time. There's always a personal officer dealing with any bereavement in the administrative department. He can speak to the relatives any time.
The police in their inquiries don't convey through the questions they ask and in the manner of the investigation that they are seriously intent in tracing the suppliers of drugs in a victim's death.
Would those suppliers be able to operate close to other police stations? To find out, we went to Postle Park, one of Glasgow's infamous drug dealing areas. There are only 34 drug squad officers to cover Strathclyde. Can they stop dealers operating on their own doorstep?
You can tackle me. What's it like?
I don't know. I just bought it. I think it's all right, because he was like, you can look at it and all that.
In sight of the police station, we're directed to a doorway.
Cheers, that'll do. No bother. See you later.
Again, no problem buying heroin. This time just 100 yards from the police station.
Drug dealing takes place day in, day out, week in, week out, on the doorsteps of several police stations in this city.
Well, that surprises me. And I'm sure if officers are ignoring what you state is true, there are some sound operational reasons for allowing that to happen. But if drugs dealing is taking place in front of an officer's nose, he will of course act.
As Stuart's drug problems grew worse, Thelma tried to help her son beat his addiction.
Stuart and I decided to go cold turkey, which we actually did for a month. He was in here. If he went anywhere in the house, I followed him. If I went out, locked the door so he couldn't get out. And if I needed to go out anywhere, I'd get somebody from the support group up at Castlemilton and he would sit with me. And we did this for a month.
Thelma's decided to share her experience with young addicts to see if they can help her investigation.
I want to know, how can I find out who my son's dealer is? Is there any way that I can go out and say who gave him the drugs?
You could do it and say it, but it'll not bring him back. And it's his choice, sort of. I know where to go to that drug dealer who... The drug dealer was doing him a favour as much as he was doing the drug dealer a favour, and it was his choice, he wasn't forced.
The drug dealer isn't out in the street telling you better buy this drug off me. The drug dealer knows, but you need the drug, and he's just wanting the money to come in. You need the drugs, and that's it, he's just giving the money.
Come on, Brian, 1 minute, push it. On, line.
At the Carlton Athletic Rehabilitation Group, these former addicts have only just turned their back on street drugs. Thelma believes if Stuart had received similar support, he might have survived.
My son's gone, and I never knew, I don't know if I told him I loved him, but I loved him. Your parents love you, you steal from them, you lie to them, but by God, your mum gave birth to you, and she'll never break that tie with you, no matter what you do.
Yeah. So see, I can only see that now, but that I'm 3 months old, well, a certain amount of time off, that's when you begin to become to terms with all the stuff you've done in the past. You can only come to terms with it, you can't change back your past. There's nothing you can do about the past apart from try and rebuild your relationship with your family, friends round about you, and I've got all my new friends at the Carlton, and that's all I need at the moment.
I've got a boy who is a nice big boy. I've now got him in a wee brown box, you know, a foot square, and that is my son. That's 26 years of his life. I can't understand it, you know. I would like to shake you all and say, for God's sake, keep off the drugs, and
that's the way your parents
please don't do to your parents what my son's done to me, because I can't take it. And when you're just coming off, so stay off. You've got to stay off the drugs.
So I'm going to try.
In the eyes of the addicts, a dealer may be providing a service. In the eyes of the law, he's a killer. Less than 2 months ago, the Scottish Court of Appeal laid down the law on how to treat cases where the illegal supply of a drug leads to a death. Their verdict sent a stark warning to Glasgow's dealers.
If it can be shown that that supply led to a death, then the supplier, put crudely, could be charged with culpable homicide. And culpable homicide, as you are aware, is roughly equivalent to the English charge of manslaughter. It is our crime which is second only to murder.
It was the first ray of hope I have had in all the years I've been in the drug field, because it's the first time there has been a change in thinking. It's the first time anybody has actually, in authority, has said, drugs kill, we're going to do something about it. And that gives a message to all the young people, to all the people who are working in the field, to the dealer, to the doctor, everybody, that drugs kill. Don't forget it.
But while the police have this important legal weapon, families say they're reluctant to use it. Susan Kearney's brother Paul died from drugs the Tuesday before Christmas, a week after the courts made their judgment. There hasn't been time to organise a headstone, but the family have made progress discovering exactly how their brother died.
I'm angry that people don't care enough. I'm angry that the police didn't investigate where Paul had got his stuff when it was so easy for me to find out.
When you got down to the scene of Paul's death, did it look to you as if the police were starting an investigation to find out exactly what had happened?
Oh no, it looked to me as if they weren't interested. That's how it looked to me.
Did the family search the room after the body had been removed?
We didn't think to search the room straight away, but one of my family went down and searched the room several days later, and they found a bag heroin. Now that to me was the police's job.
Since Paul's death, the family have had no further contact from the police. Like Thelma, they've had to do their own detective work.
Through one phone call, I found out it was a taxi driver that taken him. I found out whereabouts in Glasgow he went to. I found out what time he got dropped off and where he got dropped off. And that was through one phone call. So I know that the police could have done better than I did.
So you effectively know the dealer that supplied the drugs that killed your brother?
No, I know the house and what part of Glasgow. But then I'm not doing the police's job for them, and I'm not risking my life to do a policeman's job.
We would be more than happy to follow up any leads and any drugs deaths or anything that will take us to the dealers, and we publicise that in every occasion, and I'm happy to do so now. If you have information, please get in touch with the police.
Hangar 13 nightclub in Ayr. Today a hearing called a fatal accident inquiry opened into the drug deaths last summer of 3 young ravers from the club. In England, questions surrounding unnatural deaths are usually cleared up at an inquest. In Scotland, there is no such forum. In rare circumstances, a fatal accident inquiry can be opened. But families say these are no substitute for a full police investigation.
The medical examination will reveal that the cause of death was truly drug-related. The place of death is known. The manner of the death is known, so that there is not a lot more that the fatal accident inquiry is designed to deal with, is designed to investigate. What these people really want to know is who has contributed to this problem, who is the overall cause. Who are the drug dealers who are making the supplies to these people?
2 years ago, Patrick Farrell's drug death was one of 4 considered by a fatal accident inquiry. The family wanted to learn more about who was responsible for Patrick's death.
What we wanted to know was that something was being done to catch drug dealers, to bring it out in the open, put somebody away for it. I don't know, try and resolve the problems of drugs. But as it is, we only got the results of how the people died. We knew they died, and we knew how they died anyway. They were only telling us already what we knew.
Thelma is still trying to find out more about the death of her son. The former users at Carlton Athletic have given her some clues, but she wants to get word of her investigation to people on the street.
Me, what, Mick?
25 marks. Cheers, my man.
Stuart used to earn money by selling copies of The Big Issue in Glasgow city centre. The magazine, which helps support hundreds of homeless, has already carried a number of articles about Stuart's death.
£5, Mick, please.
Thanks very much for seeing me. I wanted to say thanks for the thing you did in The Big Issue of Stuart, and I just wanted to come along and see if you could give me any information about the drug problem that's in Glasgow just now.
Yeah, well, when Stuart was certainly here, it worked well for him, and he was able to get some money to get some furniture and get into a house, so we were very sorry to hear about what happened. The drug problem is widespread in Glasgow, throughout Glasgow. It's a major problem, a big issue for the city, and certainly drugs are widespread and available throughout the town, in the city centre, in the housing estates, in places like Easter House and the Gorbals.
They don't deal in a hidden place. In some places you might have to go to a certain spot, which was hidden in a building or whatever, or a top room somewhere. But you don't need to do that in Glasgow. You can go to an arcade like in the Gorbals, or you can go to a certain street in Pulsel Park. I mean, but you don't even have to go to them. You can pass it on the pavements. I mean, it's not hidden. They don't need to hide it.
You feel it screaming at the top of your voice. Can you see what's going over there? It happens right outside a police station, the Gorbals. It happens all the time.
Does it happen all the time? We return to the Gorbals to find out. Right outside the police station in broad daylight, the dealer was still prepared to sell drugs.
You got jellies, eh?
Aye, just 10 minutes ago, we were voting. It was only about 600.
Jellies are street slang for tranquilizer capsules used by addicts. The dealer had just sold out, but he did have heroin.
1, 2. You're doing that money there, aren't you? End up getting the jail.
behind that police station.
The dealer was obviously aware of just how close to the police station he was operating, but clearly willing to take the risk.
Yeah. 40 quid there.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah.
The family's claims were proved right. The drug squad say they target street dealers, but it appears that trading still goes on under their noses.
It doesn't really seem credible that you target street dealers when we've seen them operating on the doorstep of Glasgow police stations.
Well,
There must be an element of turning a blind eye.
We do not turn a blind eye to any drugs abuse. The situation is that we can arrest a person in the morning for dealing, and there'll be somebody back in the same place that afternoon dealing again.
But this is a police station. All you have to do is step outside the door.
Well, I'm repeating that if there's drugs dealing done in front of an officer or any police officer, he will take appropriate steps.
Are you really unaware of this allegation? Is this new to you?
That allegation is new to me, yes, and I repeat, if you have evidence that drugs dealing is taking place, I'll be delighted to hear from you and act on it.
This is something we bought outside the doorstep of a police station. It's high-quality heroin, sufficient to kill a first-time user.
Well, I take it you're handing this over to me now and you'll be giving me the background and I can investigate it, and for that I'm grateful.
25 yards away from a police station door.
I'm delighted you've given me this evidence that I can deal with and do something concrete, and encourage any others with similar information to get in touch with me.
Thelma's detective work has paid off. Word has got through to the man who was with Stuart just before he set off to buy his fatal dose of heroin. The police haven't spoken to him, but he has agreed to see Thelma.
The police should be doing this. Somebody else should be doing this, not us. It's not my job to do all this. I could be going now and getting attacked for all the trouble I've got into.
The man is frightened of reprisals and doesn't want his identity made public.
Stuart's dealer, you said you had dealt with him yourself.
Aye.
Did you find him, was he a kind of a man that pushed to give you drugs, or if you asked for a certain amount, did he want you to take more?
The guy was quite pleasant at times. Just whatever you wanted to buy, he sold you. I wouldn't say he forced anything onto you, no.
He didn't force you?
No.
And has this man got a family? Is he a user, or has he a family, a wife?
He's got a wife, and he doesn't use at all.
He doesn't use?
No.
You actually knew the person that was dealing with the drugs with Stuart.
Aye.
And I gave his name to the police. Have the police been in touch with you? Have you done anything about Stuart's death? Have they asked you any
nobody
questions?
at all has been in touch with me.
And what would you do if the police came and asked you questions?
Not too sure.
Would you give them the name of the dealer again?
Probably.
After the cameras were switched off, the witness told Thelma he would be prepared to go to the police and give information on Stuart's dealer.
I would say I've got more definite information, and I now can say to police, I know this is what's happened, and I know this is what's going on, and say to them, what are you going to do about it? And I suppose I'll get the same answer. They're not going to do anything, are they?
Thelma has today contacted Strathclyde police, offering to set up a joint meeting with the new witness.
Please, you've got to investigate these deaths. These are our children. They belong to somebody. They're human beings. Maybe the police don't think they are, but they are human beings, and for God's sake, try and stop this terrible drug death that's happening in Glasgow.